Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap. My name is Steven. Right next to me is my awesome and favorite co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hopefully the Bears come out to comeback, but and White Sox won their first series since June when the Rockies were in town. Haha.
Hey.
But all is pretty good, so we'll see how
Yeah.
all we got. And of course, it's great because we didn't get the sweep, but we got the series victory. So good.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, again, like the Rockies, they lose a series against the White Sox, and here they win a series against the Chicago Cubs, and they won a series against the Atlanta Braves a few weeks back when the Braves were here in Colorado. But that's Rockies baseball, you know what? But man, it was awesome. It was a really good series for the Rockies, man. I mean, game one, it was a hard fought win. I mean, the Rockies had control the entire game. However, Michael Bush, man, this is a guy that came from LA in the trade earlier this year, I think. And so he's been doing well for the Cubs, especially recently, especially in this series for the Rockies. He had I think, home run today, which kind of was a big blow for the Rockies, but he had a good series. But the Rockies, they were able to prevail in game one. Hunter Goodman, he had one of those games. And like I put in the caption for our final post, it was so good to be home. If you get it, so good men to be home, you know. So that was really great to see. And Hunter Goodman with that grand slam, that was really really cool. And it again helped the Rockies to get to that 9-5 win and to do that, you know, and coming back. And again, you're kind of expecting a uh, you know, road plunder, if you want to call it that, because whenever the Rockies come back from, the road trips, usually the Rockies take a while for them to get reacclimated to the altitude offensively and in the pitching. But Rockies, they played well. They got used to it. Their bats were great in game one. They won 9-5. Again, Hunter Goodman, 2 homer game there, including the grand slam. And so, really good game for the Rockies. And Austin Gomber, he had a really good game in game one. And then I believe yesterday was Kyle Freeland. He pitched a very, very good game. I mean, again, I really don't get why people on Twitter or X, like I saw one comment saying, "Oh, he stinks. He's 5-7 with a 5 ERA." Well, that's actually league average, you know. But Freeland, I mean, again, he's been great. If you go look at his numbers in the second half, Freeland's been fantastic. If you look at his numbers, go look them up. You know, they're not like the best in baseball, but they're very, very good starts that he's given for the Rockies. And so Freeland, he's been able to help out the Rockies there. And again, game two is going was the second to last time we'll be seeing the Rockies Green City Connect uniforms because there was an announcement that came just the other day that this will be the last season for the Rockies Green City Connect jerseys. And I know both Tom and I we're disappointed that this is going to be the last time we'll see those, but hopefully they make a really solid product in terms of a jersey next year. I've heard rumors about the jersey. I do not want to release that or spoil it. I think it could be good, but we'll see. But again, I'm going to miss these City Connect jerseys. But game two yesterday, again, it was great. Really good, hard fought win for the Rockies, especially late. It was an extra inning game, walk off by Brenton Doyle. But before we talk about the walk off here, let's talk about Sam Hilliard. So the Rockies, they were down 5-3 going into the bottom of the ninth. There was 2 outs. All right. So the Rockies, Bud Black brings up Sam Hilliard pinch hitting, in the bottom of the ninth. And in my mind, I was like, okay, we've seen this before where Sam Hilliard, he's gotten, to the point where he's tied the game before. And I think the last time Sam Hilliard came through and tied the ball game late in the game, I think was against Boston when Boston was here earlier, I believe in August, not August, July when the Red Sox were here. I think Sam Hilliard got the I think go ahead or tying home run there. And so Sam Hilliard, he comes through with a big 2-run home run, which tied the game. That was really, really cool. And it was just like, man, that's all. I mean, the Rockies, again, it's crazy that they've been able to sustain a fight this long. I mean, again, you're playing against teams that are trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to get into postseason contention. And for a lot of Cubs fans, this was a game that they had to win. Game one and game two were games that they had to win just to try to at least stay alive in some sort of way. But, the Rockies, they played very good baseball. And what we've been talking about for the last several weeks, the Rockies needed to play competitive baseball, and that's what they did. And so Sam Hilliard, game time home run. We go into extra innings. Tyler Kinley did a heck of a job getting those 3 outs there because, again, it can get nasty at Coors Field. We've seen that many, many times before this year in the last few years to where whenever you go into extra innings, especially with that California rule where the runner starts at second base, things at Coors Field can go out of way, right? Can go crazy. And Tyler Kinley again pitched a heck of a game. Great job for Kinley. I believe he got the win. He earned the win last night. And what do you know? Brenton Doyle comes up with an opportunity to walk it off, and he does. And the Rockies clinch a 6-5 win against the Cubs in Game 2, and that secured the series win. And there was a lot of hope for today for the Rockies to sweep the Cubs, because on the mound for the Cubs was Cal Hendricks, who coming into this game was having a pretty poor season. He's having one of his worst years in his career. ERA above 6. Record is not very good whatsoever. And I think it was like 3-11, 3 wins, 11 losses coming into this game. And he dominated the Rockies offense. And, Cal Hendrick, he has had good success in his career at Coors Field. But looking at that, you're like, okay, maybe the Rockies have an opportunity to get the bats going again today, especially in the afternoon game when it's warm at Coors Field. But that was just not the case, especially in that top part of the lineup. Really, nobody got ahead, not hardly any production, where really most of the production today came from the middle to the latter parts of the lineup. Jacob Stallings got a home run today, and Sam Hilliard, he got a base hit. Nolan Jones, he got a nice base hit up the middle today. But yeah, Tom, not a lot of offense today for the Rockies against the Cubs pitching. And it's somewhat a bummer because we both wanted a sweep. And I think this definitely could have been a sweep for the Rockies. It's just that offensively, they just could not get anything going against the Cubs. And, while the Cubs did get the W, I think for all of us, I think we can agree that the playoff chances for the Cubs are pretty much done now. There's only really 2 teams that are, going for that final wildcard spot, and that's the Braves and the New York Mets. So, you know what? I think still the Rockies did a really good job, because again, I mean, if you look at Game 1 and Game 2, those could have gone the other way, where the Cubs could have won Game 2 if they close out that game 5-3, right? Game 1, what if the Cubs had a huge inning to where they take the lead and Hunter Goodman strikes out, or something happens, or Rockies pinch hit Hunter Goodman, right? So you're looking at a series where the Rockies could have been swept, but instead the Rockies, they take 2 out of 3 against the Cubs at Coors Field. So you got to like that. And I think this was a very important series for both the Rockies and the Cubs, even though the Cubs, they're kind of out of it now. This was a series that they had to win or sweep, but Rockies, they took care of business, kind of like what they did last year when the Cubs came here. So you got to like that as a Rockies fan.
Yeah, the Cubs have been fluttering in the second half. Good, bad, good, bad. So they've been very inconsistent. Mm-hmm. And like I said back in our preseason predictions, this team is not much, wasn't much improved from last year's team. So that's why I predicted them not to make the playoffs. Going into this, but sorry, games 1 and 2, you got 2 quality starts from Gomber and Freeland. That was awesome. It's what you needed to give your team, as I say, starting pitchers give quality starts. It gives your team the best chance to win. Mm. And just a couple of things on Sam Hilliard as a pinch hitter in his career. As a pinch hitter, his slash line is 306, 324, and a 778 slugging. And in Game 2, his home run was his 5th career pinch hit home run. So that's something definitely to come off the bench. And so that was good. That was a great moment for him, especially also on the day pregame, they had an honor. The Hilliard Foundation donated a wheelchair to, I can't remember the foundation, but of course his foundation is fantastic, given the fact that Sam also highlighted in an interview, it is almost 2 years to the day of on Saturday that his father had a sad passing from ALS, terrible disease. So his charity, his family foundation, is a fantastic work with trying to help do research and fund research for a cure for that awful disease. So good on him. Yeah. So it was a great moment for him. Going for Game 2, and of course is great. Now going into Game 3, you mentioned Kyle Hendricks. I can tell you this, there's a lot of people talking in Chicago as to why he has not been DFA'd yet. He just passed, one thing is, of course, he just passed his 10 years of service time, so good on him. That is a mark that many players hope to reach. He did reach it. And his career numbers at Coors Field I got the wrong numbers here. I'm trying to find the pitching stats. I must look at the wrong stats, but he does have a decent track record at Coors Field in his career. The only thing I'll say about Game 3, as far as Hendricks doing a good job on the mound for the Cubs. Rockies pitching just didn't show up. We had some rough outings from, I mean, Quantrill was all right in 2 innings in the third, and then the rest of the team. But of course, Lawrence just continues to struggle. But the offense was no show either. Basically, they were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. We had the bases loaded at the end of the game. Only were able to draw across the one run. So again, as I told you, I was going to bring a broom here onto the recap if in fact we did sweep the Cubs.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the opportunity to do so. So it's just, it's unfortunate, but hey, series victory nonetheless.
Yeah, and I will mention this too because one of the things that we did mention on the caption for our final score post on our social medias is that the Rockies pitching surrendered 12 walks today. That's a big no. You're not that shouldn't be happening. It's they did get 13 strikeouts, which was huge. And I will say this, however, that half of those walks were because of Cal Quantrill, who we've talked about a little bit, in the second half here. He's not been himself, and I think we've all seen that to where Quantrill is just, there's something wrong with him. I think he's had injury issues here in the second half, kind of like what we saw last year when he was with Cleveland. However, he didn't pitch as much last year, but it just you hope that he's okay. Quantrill, he pitched well the first inning or two, and then all of a sudden, he got taken out. So Rockies, they need to lower those walks. And, it wasn't a horrible game. Again, 6-2, it could have been worse. I mean, again, you have Michael Busch, who is having a pretty fine year with the Chicago Cubs. And I think he's going to turn out to be a pretty good player for them. I mean, again, a lot of Cubs players have been from the, Dodgers organization. All right. I mean, Hayward, of course, he's now with the Dodgers, but he came in that trade, I believe, a couple years ago, or was it a couple years ago? I think in a different trade. I think wasn't it for? Um,
No, Hayward was a free agent. Hayward prior to
oh,
the two,
yeah.
prior to the 2016 season, Hayward signed as a free agent with the Cubs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was thinking if it was a trade or not. I'm thinking of a different trade. Even though there's been times where like the Cubs and the Dodgers have made several trades. I think the one I was thinking about is what's that guy? Who's now on the Tigers? Zach McKinstry. I think that's his name because he went from I think the Dodgers to the Cubs and the Cubs to the Tigers. But anyway, I got my players mixed up there. But yeah, Bushy's having a nice year, but again, not a bad series for the Rockies whatsoever. You'll take this. Could have gone either way. Could have gone to the Cubs. Completely could have been really, really bad for the Rockies. But again, the Rockies, they've been playing. Drew Goodman said this. Just I think today or in the series, sometime during the series on the broadcast, is that this is what you like to see as you head into 2025 is seeing the young bullpen. And Blay on Instagram in the comments, he says kind of the same thing that we're all thinking, that the Rockies, they have really good pieces in their bullpen. Seth Halverson, he's having a really good start to his career. Shavili, he's having a good start as well. We've talked about Luis Peralta, who I think is a wild card in that bullpen as well. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that there's definitely upside, right, in the Rockies bullpen, and there's stuff there to build off of. And we talked about that either in the last recap or the recap before that. If the Rockies want to turn this thing around, and it looks like they are, a bullpen of like that will help you go deep, in the next, couple of years. And I think we're already heading that way. So, Rockies keep that up, but also, acquire some pieces in the bullpen once that happens. Yeah. So again, good series. Well done by the Rockies. We'll take it. Again, could have been a sweep, but you know what? We're happy with the series win against a team that was trying to make the playoffs once again. But again, I feel like the Cubs have to go to the Rockies first to try to make the playoffs. But yet the Rockies are like, not so fast, Chicago, not so fast. So yeah, really, the season is coming down to an end. The Rockies have a few more series left to go. Of course, their next series will be starting tomorrow against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks, as we know, if you look at the standings, they're the number one team in the wild card. So it's going to be a pretty difficult matchup for your Rockies. But like we've seen this year, the Rockies, they have played well against teams that are in the playoff race or either in the playoff contention bracket, in the playoff bracket. So, you're hoping that the Rockies can stay competitive here, win at least one game against Arizona, and try to do your best. And again, the Rockies, they currently, as of right now, of course, this is going to be updated probably until tomorrow or the next couple of days. But as of right now, we only have one pitching matchup available that we know of that will be pitching. So, and that's game one. So as of right now, um, game one starters for the Rockies and Diamondbacks. So for the Rockies, it will be Antonio Sindotella, which is really, really cool because he hasn't been pitching. He hasn't pitched since last year, early of last year when I think he pitched against the Mets, and I think he might have pitched one more game. But, he looked pretty good last year. We were so excited to see him coming back from his ACL injury when he tore that in, I believe, St. Louis in 2022. And so we were looking forward to having him return. And right after he comes back, he gets injured again and has to get Tommy John, just like Herman Marquez. And so it was a big bummer, and you could definitely use Senzatella. I'm okay with this, even though there's a part of me that's like, maybe we should just let him rest for the rest of the year and then wait till spring training comes around. But, we'll see what happens. I'm sure that the Rockies, again, this is probably going to be Sindotelo after this will probably only have like one more start of the season, and then that the Rockies will probably shut him down because again, there's only about 10, 11 games left of the year, something like that. So I think it's 12. It's either 11 or 12 games left. So again, the Rockies, they're going to have a 5 to 6 man rotation here. They're going to have maybe some bullpen guys start like Ty Block, but he's been DFA'd, so we probably won't see him for the rest of this year. But Sindotelo, he'll probably have like one more start after tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be really cool to see him back on the mound tomorrow for the Rockies. On the mound for Arizona will be Merrill Kelly, who has had the Rockies number in the past, but the Rockies, they've gotten some W's against him at Coors Field. But Arizona, they're going to be a tough matchup, man. I mean, Arizona, early in the season, they didn't start off so hot. A lot of questions, were they going to be, were they going to have that World Series cool off, or were they going to, have that, moment to where they just weren't as good as they were last year? And they kind of got hot here in the second half. They've been playing great baseball. They're 83 and 66 heading into tomorrow. Merrill Kelly, who I believe just came back from an injury, actually. He's 4-0 with a 4.26 ERA with 44 strikeouts. So it looks like he just recently, not too long ago, came back from injuries. And so, he only has 57 innings pitched. So, yeah, he's been injured this year, but he's pitched well. And so, again, tough matchup for the Rockies on Monday. But, the Rockies, they do have a pretty, solid veteran on the mound in Antonio Sindotella, who has done well at Coors Field in his career. And I think Arizona has been one of the teams that he's actually done well. So I'm looking forward to the series. Again, not in the Rockies' favor like a lot of these recent series, but the Rockies, they've kind of proven us wrong, right? And, hopefully we kind of see that in this series against Arizona. So games 2 and game 3's starters on the mound are TBD, so to be determined or to be announced. So again, keep an eye on the Game Day app or keep an eye on our Rockies pages, social media pages for updates on that. All right. So as we see in our notes here, we have 12 games left of the season. So again, we only have about like a little bit less than 2 weeks of the season. It's hard to believe, but we're getting there. And so pretty soon we're going to be doing our player awards on Instagram. So if you follow us on Instagram, if you're watching on Instagram, you're going to be able to vote for the players awards for our page this year. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to be awesome. Let me see if we have any questions here on Instagram. So again, want to shout out Blay here, who's been commenting. He says, what does Tanner Gordon need to work on? I think he has a high ceiling like Ryan Feltner, who is starting to put it together at that major league level. What does he need to do? How do you fix him? Good question, Blay. I think, for Tanner Gordon, a lot of these young pitchers for the Rockies, they're getting their, they're getting their toe they're getting their toe in the water, if that makes sense. Right. They're getting that first experience of like, okay, what's it like being a major league pitcher on the mound? And Tanner Gordon, he's had some pretty rough matchups. I mean, you're going against teams that are, playoff contending teams, right? And Tanner Gordon, he's had some really good starts. And the first couple of starts were a little bit, uneven. They weren't great. But, Tanner Gordon has had some good starts. I think that start against his former team in Atlanta a few weeks back, that was really, really good. But I'm not really too concerned about Tanner Gordon because if you go back and remember, and since you mentioned Ryan Feltner, I'll mention Ryan Feltner when he made his debut in 2022 because I remember it was either 2022 or 2021. I think it might have been 2021 when Ryan Feltner made his debut. And Feltner, if you remember, he did not look good. I mean, I remember, I think his first start was against Atlanta. Atlanta torched him at Coors Field. As a matter of fact, I think the first pitch he ever threw was a home run by Ozzy Albies. So, it's going to happen, but Ryan Feltner, he's starting to settle in there. I think I wouldn't be too concerned about Tanner Gordon. I think he'll be all right. And not to mention, I think Tanner Gordon was one of the best pitching prospects for Atlanta when he was traded over here to Colorado. So, and so, yeah, Blay replies by saying it's fun playing spoiler baseball. Absolutely. We're also looking forward to Senzatella's start. So, again, thank you, Blay, for your comments. So, Tom, what are you looking at for the Rockies as the Rockies start the series against Arizona tomorrow?
Considering the Cubs are now out of it, there's only 4 teams left that are jockeying for those final 3 spots, and you've got Padres sitting in the number 1 wild card spot. Diamondbacks are only a game and a half behind, and 2 games behind them are the Braves and the Mets. So there's no guarantees as far as spots are concerned. For all we know, the Padres could lose 11 games in a row and fall right out of it. So there's always that chance. So what the Rockies can do is, again, try to play spoiler or make the Diamondbacks earn their playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, the Arizona, they're going to make it. But, again, for the Rockies, you kind of, again, play spoiler baseball a little bit, even though you're not going to spoil their playoff chances. But you would like to see them, hey, maybe they can bump Arizona down to 2 or 3. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter. They're still going to make the playoffs. Arizona, they've had a really good year. They're going to make the playoffs again. So, it's going to be an interesting series. And again, it's kind of disappointing that the baseball season's coming to an end. And, we're having to stick with the Broncos, but we'll see. But I'm really happy with the way the Rockies have been playing, and I'll mention this when we finish off the season. Like, I honestly think that we've seen a little bit of a better transition. We've seen a transition to where, okay, now we can kind of see it coming. Where last year when we were doing our podcast, we were kind of like, maybe next year we'll start seeing a turn a little bit, maybe 2025. But we also kind of knew that this year was going to be one of those years. But again, it's been really good to see the Rockies stay competitive, especially late in the series, because I feel like last year, the Rockies, they just ran out of gas by August. I remember they had a bunch of series I think they played against the Rays in Tampa. That was bad. They played against the Orioles. That was bad. They played against I think the Twins. That wasn't a really good series. The Dodgers. They played a bunch of teams, like, that were playoff competitive, last August and September, and they did horribly. Where now the Rockies, they've been playing very, very well against some of these teams. And it kind of tells you that the young players like Doyle, Tovar, and Toglia, especially, and Toglia has been a guy that I think not a lot of people are talking about too. But these guys, they're starting to mature, and we're starting to see that on the field. And I think it's just, as a Rockies fan, you want to see that, and it's something that puts a smile on my face. And it's exciting because I think the Rockies, they have a pretty bright future ahead of them, which I will mention. Since I know Blake Street Banner, our friends over there, they're probably going to be talking about it on their shows. But last night, Rockies high A affiliate Spokane Indians, they just won the Northwest League last night. It was their first championship win, I think, since 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And it was kind of a weird way to finish the game, because I think it was a hit by pitch. Rockies prospect Kyle Karros got hit by a pitch to end the game. But it goes to show you that, hey, the Rockies, they have winners, and the Northwest League is no joke. I mean, you're playing against, I think they were playing against Vancouver, who is, I think, the high A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. And so you're playing against, some pretty darn good, farm systems here. And so for the Rockies, high A affiliate to do that, and with guys that have had, not a lot of playing time, this is their first full year for a lot of those guys. And then look at Charlie Condon. He hasn't even played a full year yet. And so, and talking about Condon very quickly, I'm not really concerned about him, because again, you're talking about a guy that's, skipped low A, which is still a pretty good jump. You're talking about a year's worth of work. And Condon, actually, he's been playing a little bit better as of the last few games. And of course, now with the season over for him, and he's going to be all about preparing for next year and having an opportunity to maybe try to crack that 40-man roster in spring training. I don't think the Rockies are going to try to rush him, but the Rockies, again, they have a lot of bright pieces moving forward, and I think we're starting to see that on the big league roster, but also in the minor league level. And Zach Veen, he got a home run just the other day. It might have been last night. He got a 6th home run of the season. Adele Amador got a home run, and I think today was the last day for Double A baseball. He got a home run today in Hartford, or I think for Hartford. I don't think they were playing in Hartford today, but yeah, like the Rockies, they have a bunch of these pieces, and it's gonna be awesome, man. And so I'm just really, really happy that the Rockies um, they have promising, pieces to move forward here into the future. So again, it's been awesome, and hopefully the Rockies finish the season off strong, finish these last 12 games, playing competitive baseball against some of these uh, some of the best teams in baseball, right? Again, I think if I'm not mistaken, the Rockies, coming into the second half of the season after the All Star break, I think they had either the hardest or I think it was the most difficult schedule remaining in the season. It was either the most difficult or the second most difficult schedule remaining of the season. So I gotta say, the Rockies, they get an A or a B at least, because given the teams that they've had to play, they've done pretty well. And in the Rockies, they've been playing. If you look at their record by month, which we're not going to pull up tonight, but if you look at their record by month, I was kind of doing it yesterday. It was right around 500. I think August they were right around 500 in win record for that month. And September is so far right around 500 as well. Yeah, the Rockies, they're hovering around 500, and especially for a rebuilding team like the Rockies, we'll definitely take that. And again, is it possible the Rockies avoid 100 losses? It's going to be close, but it could be doable for sure. The win total from last year is definitely doable. The Rockies are only 2 wins away from tying that, and 3 wins away from 60, which will be one more from last year's win total. So again, keep an eye on for the Rockies as the last few series, are coming up quickly, and we start to wrap this season up. So it's gonna be fun to watch. I think that will do it for tonight's Rockies recap. Thank you everyone for joining on Instagram and for watching us on X and YouTube. Shout out to those who are watching on YouTube. We appreciate your view. We hope you have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Tom and I will be back in the next few days for the next recap once the D-back series is over. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, go Rockies.